Hi everyone! Today I am going to demonstrate chocolate chip cookies, America's favorite cookie. And I'm going to be using the recipe that's from the back of the Toll House chocolate chip bag, which is super good, the classic chocolate chip recipe. Now, one thing I have done though is I've taken the recipe and I've divided it in half. I cut it in half because the regular chocolate chip cookie recipe on the back of the bag makes a lot of cookies, and you have to put several baking sheets in the oven to get them all baked. And in our little 45-minute class period, we just don't have time for that. So we're going to make the half recipe and then be able to fit them all on one baking sheet and get them all done in one shot so that we definitely have time for them to cool and eat them. Okay, so first thing I've already done, of course, is washed my hands, and I've got my recipe, I've got my ingredients, I'm ready to get started. Okay, so step one says preheat the oven to 375. So what I'm gonna do is my cameraman's gonna follow me, and I'm gonna walk over here to my oven, and I'm gonna preheat it or set it to 375. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, yours might be a little bit different, but they're kind of works similarly. I'm gonna look to where it says bake, and I'm gonna use my up arrow to get it to 375. And then bake again. Oh. And then just let it go, I guess, and it will get to 375, and then it'll be ready for me to bake, okay? Now, an oven is different than a microwave. A microwave, you can just put your food in, set the time, and it starts baking right away. With an oven, you have to preheat it first. You have to set the temperature ahead of time, about 15 minutes before you put anything in there, so it can be getting hot. Okay, so I've got that preheating. So now I'm gonna come over here and start my recipe. So the first step is, preheat the oven, 375, I've already done that. Step two, in a small mixing bowl, combine the flour, baking soda, and salt and set it aside. Okay, now you can use a small mixing bowl, but you can also use a large one, it doesn't really matter. But for this recipe, you're going to need a large bowl and a second bowl. The second one can be small or it can be large, either one. Okay, we're going to be using the KitchenAid electric mixers. If you have a handheld mixer, you can also do that. Okay, all right, so step two, in a small bowl, combine the flour, first ingredient, and I look at the top of the recipe and I need 1.5 cups of flour. Okay, so I go to my canister here, and usually your flour is in your largest canister because it's the ingredient we use the most. And I'm going to get 1.5 cups of flour. Now, if you remember from our measuring demonstration, we talked about how flour is a special ingredient. I'm gonna get a large spoon here. Flour can be fluffed up or it can be packed down. So when a recipe says 1.5 cups of flour, it really means 1.5 cups of fluffy flour. So what we do is we stir it and spoon it in the measuring cup, stir it and spoon it so that we get the right amount. Stir it and spoon it, and then we're gonna fill it so it's overflowing. Use the leveler and level it across. There's 1 cup. Now, notice it said 1.5, okay? Here's 1. Now I also need to put in a half. 1.5. 1.5. Now, my own son when he was in FACS class, the recipe said 1.5 cups of flour. He only put in the half. He missed the whole 1 out of the 1.5. And when they went to bake their cookies, it was like a chocolate soupy mess. So be really careful about that. 1.5 cups of flour. All right. Next ingredient that goes into the small bowl. In a small bowl, combine flour, baking soda. Baking soda, I need a half teaspoon. Okay, so baking soda will be in the little box. And make sure you get the one that says 1/2 TSP, half teaspoon. And we'll fill it so it's overflowing. Now, if your box is still in pretty good condition like this one, you can just kind of run it along that cardboard edge as a built-in leveler. Put that in. Next ingredient is the salt. And again, I need a half teaspoon of salt. Salt is in your small canister. Make sure you have the half TSP. Fill it so it's overflowing. And level that across. Half teaspoon of salt. Be very careful with that measurement because if you screw up on the salt, you'll ruin your whole cookies. I've had that happen before where instead of putting a half teaspoon, they put in a half tablespoon or they put in 1 tablespoon and they're nasty. So make sure you only put in the half teaspoon of salt. And let's see, in a small mixing bowl, combine flour, baking soda, and salt, set it aside. I'm just gonna give this a stir to make sure I blend in that salt and baking soda throughout the flour so it doesn't all, stay in one spot. So just blend this together. And then I'm gonna set that aside for later. Okay, that's good. Set that over here. All right, now I'm on step 3. 3 says, in a large mixing bowl, mix the butter, sugar, brown sugar, and vanilla, beat until creamy. So first thing, in a large mixing bowl, beat the butter. So I look to the top, I need a 1/2 cup of butter. Now, if I had the spreadable kind of butter, like in a tub, I could use a 1/2 cup measuring cup and my rubber scraper and pack it in and level it across. But the cool thing is, if you get a stick of butter, right on the side, it says 8 tablespoons equals 1/4 pound or a 1/2 cup. So these 8 tablespoons equals a 1/2 cup. So I don't even have to measure it. I just put in 1 stick. 1 stick equals a 1/2 cup. So it's already pre-measured for me. And it is softened because I've had it sitting out for a little while to warm up so it's not as cold just out of the refrigerator. And I need, mix the butter, sugar. I look to the top. I need 1/3 cup of sugar. So sugar is in my medium-sized canister. And I get the 1/3 cup measuring cup. Now sugar is not like flour. You can't fluff it or pack it down. So sugar is really easy to measure. Just make sure you have the right measuring cup. It says 1/3 cup. Fill it so it's overflowing. And level that across. We'll go ahead and put that in. Bring this all into our mixer. I'm gonna unlock it so I can lift this up so it's just easier to pour things in. So now I've got my 1/3 cup of sugar in there. I'll go ahead and close that. And my next ingredient is the packed brown sugar, 1/3 cup. So that is here, 1/3 cup of brown sugar. And if you remember from our measuring demonstration with brown sugar, you always pack it down. It's the opposite of flour. Flour, you make it fluffy by stirring it and spooning it into the measuring cup. With brown sugar, you want to fill it so it's overflowing and then pack it down. And then make sure it's still kind of overflowing and then use your leveler, level across and put that in. Okay. Remember, if you don't have one of these frosting spatulas, which I call a leveler, if you don't have one of these at home, you can always just use the flat side of a butter knife. Works perfectly. All right, and last I need my vanilla extract. It's my flavoring. And I look to the recipe, I need a 1/2 teaspoon, 1/2 TSP. And with this, I'm just gonna fill it up to the top as close as I can and then put it into my mixing bowl. There we go, put that in. All right, so I'm just gonna do a double check. It says in a large mixing bowl, mix the butter, yes. Sugar, yes, brown sugar and vanilla. Beat until creamy. All right, so I'm gonna put down the beater. I'm gonna lock it, okay? And I wanna see how is the mirror, can we see inside the measurement, okay, into the mixer? I'm gonna start it on low, so the first button, so it kind of gets going. And I'll turn it up. We're gonna mix it till it's nice and creamy. We will have to stop and scrape it down in a minute. Okay, turn that off, unlock it, use my rubber scraper, and you can see I have a lot of butter on the sides. So I want to scrape that down so it all gets incorporated. And you get this really nice and creamy before we put the flour in. Okay. Down, lock it, start on low, and turn it up. Oops, maybe not that high. That looks good, nice and creamy. Okay, I'm gonna scrape this down one more time so it's nice and easy to mix together. Okay. Now remember, whenever you're using a stand mixer like this, never put a rubber scraper or a spoon or anything in the mixer while it's turning. Okay, and we'll lock it. Okay, so now I'm on step 4, beat in the egg. Okay, so don't forget about this step. You beat this all together and then you put in 1 egg. Now, as a reminder, I am going to crack this on the counter so I don't push any shell up into the egg, and then I'll put it into the mixing bowl. So tap a few times on the counter and then put it in the mixing bowl. Okay. We're gonna put this back down. We're gonna lock it and then beat that in. Start on low first, incorporate it, and then you can turn it up. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now I am on step 5. 5 says, gradually add the flour mixture, mix until smooth. Okay, so now I'm gonna bring over the flour mixture that I already put together at the beginning of the recipe. And I'm gonna start adding a little bit at a time. As I said, gradually. I'm gonna unlock it. I'll add about 1/3 of it at a time, so about that much to start. Put this down, lock it back up, and start on low or else that flour will fly. Once it starts to incorporate, then you can turn it up a little bit. Okay, looks good. Go ahead and open it up. We'll add another 1/3, so about half of this. And lock it, start on low again. And then turn it up slowly, gradually. And we'll add the rest. Okay. Notice we do not have the chocolate chips in yet. Thing about the Toll House cookie recipe is it's very important that you do things in order, 1 step at a time. Since this is my last time to mix it, I'm gonna stop right there, scrape down the side of the bowl with my rubber scraper, and then I'll mix it one more time, just to make sure I get all that flour incorporated and everything's nicely blended. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now I am on step 6. 6 says, with a spoon, stir in the chocolate chips. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this off. Remember to remove the beater. I'm gonna push up and then turn it so it comes out like a key. And then I'm gonna remove the bowl, spin it so it unlocks. And I'm gonna take my rubber scraper and remove the excess cookie dough that is sticking. It smells really good. Okay. There we go. And chocolate chips. Okay, so chocolate chips, I need 1 cup. So I have a 1 cup dry measuring cup, and I'm gonna measure 1 cup of chocolate chips. Now, a lot of kids will ask me, can we put in extra chocolate chips? I know that sounds like a good idea, but it's really not, because this chocolate chip cookie recipe is from the chocolate chip company. So they already want you to use a lot of chocolate chips. There is a lot of chocolate chips in the Toll House cookie recipe. If you try to put in more, your cookies, the chocolate will burn to the pan. The cookies will turn out greasy and burnt chocolatey, and it's not good. So make sure you do not put extra, just fill it up to the 1 cup. And then you're not going to mix it with the electric mixer. You're gonna stir it with a spoon, or I just use the rubber scraper. So just stir in those chocolate chips. You can see there's a lot of chocolate chips in this dough. Now, like I said, this is just a half recipe because we only have time to cook 1 tray of cookies. But if you use the recipe on the back of the Toll House cookie, chocolate chip cookie bag, you'll get the full recipe. Or you can just double this one. Okay, so now I am on step 7. Step 7 says drop by rounded tablespoonfuls onto an ungreased cookie sheet. All right, this is called an air bake cookie sheet. This is a special cookie sheet because it has 2 layers of metal. I love these cookie sheets because when you use just a regular old-fashioned type of cookie sheet that only has 1 layer, it's very easy for the bottoms of the cookies to get burned while the top is still moist. So with these kind of air bake cookie sheets, air cushion with that 2 layers, it helps the bottoms of the cookies not to burn. So I would really recommend, if you're gonna plan on making a lot of cookies at home, I would recommend on getting one of these larger, because they come in a smaller size and a larger. I like the larger because you can fit a lot of cookies on it. One of these large air bake or air cushion cookie sheets. They're only like $10 at Walmart, I think. All right, so tablespoonfuls onto my cookie sheet. What you're gonna do is take a spoonful of dough, about that big, and in 1 spoon, and with your other spoon, you're gonna push it onto the cookie sheet. Now you wanna try to make all the cookies about the same size, because if you don't, the little ones can burn while the bigger ones take longer to cook. Also, it's very important that you don't put the cookie dough too close to the edge. If I put a cookie here on the edge, when they bake, they spread out. And if they spread out, they'll fall off the edge. And then they burn in the bottom of the oven, and it's a real pain in the butt. So make sure you don't get them too close to the edge. Try to make them about right, same size. I like to do about 3 across and 4 or 5 down. Seems to work good. So pretty big spoonful. Trying to get them the same size. And then not too close together, because like I said, they will spread out as they bake. And if they run into each other, it's fine, but it's just kind of harder to get them off the cookie sheet. All right, so it looks like I've got 3 across, 4 down right now. And I have enough for maybe 2 or 3 cookies, so I'll have to squeeze these on. Here. You notice I don't have any very close to the edge because I don't want them to fall off. And one here. All right, that should work. All right, so now I'm on step 8, bake 7 to 9 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna take them over here to my oven, which is preheated now up to 375. And I wanna talk about putting things in the oven. So whenever you put things in the oven, you wanna make sure you're protecting your hands. So I've got a hot pad and I've got an oven mitt, okay? If you're nervous about putting things in the oven, wear an oven mitt. You'll feel more protected, okay? Now, when I open the door, anything I touch on the inside will melt or burn my skin very badly, okay? If I touch this part, that is 375 degrees. If I touch anywhere inside the door, it's 375 degrees. Very, very dangerous. What you're gonna do, you're gonna use 2 hot pads, or like I have a hot pad and oven mitt, and you are going to carefully slide it on the top rack, back like that. Notice I put it in sideways. These big cookie sheets don't fit very well in like that, so I put it in sideways, and then I shut the door, and then I'm gonna set the timer for the lowest possible time, which is 7 minutes. So I'm gonna go, let's see, timer set, up to 7 minutes. I'm gonna let it go and it should start. The reason I set it for the lowest amount of time, because it said bake 7 to 9 minutes, at 7 minutes I wanna check and see if they're done. What I'm gonna do to check is I'm just gonna open the door a little bit and take a peek. I don't wanna open the door all the way and then stand around and check them out because I'm letting all the hot air out. So I'm just gonna open a little ways and peek. What I'm looking for is golden brown around the bottom edge of the cookies. The top of the cookie might still look moist, and that is what I want. But I'm looking at the bottom edge of the cookies. If towards the bottom or the sides of the cookies look golden brown, then they're done. And at that point, what I would do is use my 2 hot pads or oven mitt and hot pad. I would take it out with 2 hands, and you're gonna need to open the door. Notice I'm standing to the side. I would open the door all the way, and then grab with 2 hands, pull it straight out, and put it on top of my stove. It's important that you take it out, bend down to the side, and pull it straight out, because if you take it out at an angle like this, they can slide off, and that's a bummer. Also, when you take them out like this, sometimes you have a chance of burning your wrist right here. Okay, so make sure you bend down, pull it straight out, put it on top of your stove. Okay, and make sure the door is open all the way whenever you're taking something out or putting it in the oven. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes left. At 7 minutes, I'll check it. If they have golden brown edges, I'll take them out, put them on my top of my stove. If they're not golden brown yet, I'll cook them for another minute, okay? After they're golden brown, I set them on the stove. I'm gonna let them cool for about 2 minutes. And to help it along, you could even fan it like this with a hot pad. Let it cool for about 2 minutes on the baking sheet. Then what I would do is I would set out a cooling rack next to my stove. I'm gonna use a pancake turner and lift them off the cookie sheet and put them on the cooling rack. Lift them off the cookie sheet, put them on the cooling rack. What this does is allows air to get under to the bottoms of the cookies, and it helps them solidify a little bit and cool down so that we can eat them or take them with us. Tomorrow's lab's gonna be a little bit different. We're actually not going to set the table with glasses of water and plates like we usually do. Because this lab takes a little bit too long, and because this is portable and so good, I am gonna let you take the cookies home with you tomorrow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have you cool them on your baking sheet for 2 minutes, and then let them cool for several minutes on the cooling rack, and then I'm gonna give everybody their own baggie, and you guys can divide them up and take them home with you, okay? Well, I hope you try making these at home also, and your family loves them as much as we do. Thanks for watching.